And again, welcome to the Bible Christians of God. I'm Brother Jacob. Welcome to those of you that are seeking to be born again by the Word of God. Those of you that seek to be translated by the Word of God into the kingdom of His dear Son. And those of you that are sons and daughters of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, spiritually and physical. And today we continue with our series, The Gentiles. As I went into last week and stated last week, we're going to break it down. We're going to go and get into each one of the segments of their times. And each one of the segments and times that the Lord has given them is called the times of the Gentiles. Last week we went clean in on who they are, identified their modern day names. We even went into the New Testament, showed you how Paul was the apostle to the Europeans, people we commonly call white folks, and we learned all white folks ain't Gentiles. Okay, and everybody that's not a Jew ain't a Gentile, y'all. So we dealt with that thoroughly last week in part one. But today, we're moving on in our series, The Gentiles, and we're dealing with Babylon, and we're dealing with MEDO-Persian. I'm going to get ready to go to our slide here. We're moving on to Babylon and MEDO-Persian. And of course, our title, move right along. Next. And I want to point out something here as we go in this lesson. I pulled this up from a study grow, and it talks about how Daniel's second is God's revelation for Israel. And I like how this in particular, if you can zoom in a little bit on this in particular shows you from the head of gold how it degenerates and decreases in character and authority of rule and increases in strength, because the magnitude of the Roman Empire is far greater than what Babylon is. But we're going to find out that Babylon is still here and around. So this is what I like about this here. So I want to just move on to our next slide. And this is where we at today. Babylon, the Babylonian Empire, which came up in 605 BC, and is represented by the lion. And we're going to deal with the MEDO-Persian Empire, which is the bear. Now, the symbol of Russia is the bear, so we know what we're talking about is in your face this day. Next slide, please. And here's where we are. We're going to deal with the statue, the head of gold, and we're going to deal with the chest and arms of silver, which represents the MEDO-Persian. But Babylon was the first one to rise up. This is the great Gentile empire that rose up and swallowed up the world, y'all. So with that being said, just to reiterate, let's go now, and rather I want to go deal directly with this because I got a lot to get out of this part two. Let's go to Daniel's 1 and 1. The book of Daniel's 1 and 1. We're going to do a lot of reading and a lot of slide. And we're going to understand, because these Gentiles have been in power a long time. They're going to be here till the Lord comes back. The Gentiles need to be saved by the priest of God. The Gentiles have indeed been enthroned in power for a long time. And we're going to learn as we go down each one of these parts, y'all, that Babylon is actually around this day. But we're going to understand how that is critical to saving the people from the religion and the faith of Babylon. Okay? So we're going to go to Daniel's 1 and verse 1. Daniel's 1 and 1. Just to show you the Bible lines up with the historical facts. As we dealt with last week, the Gentiles sit at the table of devils because they simply haven't been taught. And we're going to deal with their religion. It's going to be our focus on this, continuing on this series. We're going to walk the Babylonian religion into the Medo-Persian, and we're going to see how we had trace elements of that present even in this day in a religion that proliferates the landscape, especially in what they call Christianity. It's just redressed Babylonian doctrine, y'all. But we'll get there. By the time we get to the end of this, you'll clearly see that. So Daniel 1 and verse 1. Daniel 1 and verse 1. Read.
In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, to Jerusalem and besieged it.
So we dealt with that last week. How Nebuchadnezzar came, he besieged Jerusalem. This is one of the times that the Gentiles began to reign over Jerusalem and other nations began to fall. But go ahead, keep going.
Verse 2. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God.
See, notice Nebuchadnezzar, he had a God. We're going to find out as we go down this series that each one of these periods, whether Babylon rule, MEDO-Persian rule, Greek rule, and then Roman Empire rule, all the way down to this time, that they had their gods. They didn't have the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Israel, the great I am. Okay? So he took what? He took, the Lord gave Jehoiakim of Judah into his hand because of his disobedience. Zedekiah was the last standing king that Israel had. We read where the Lord put his eyes out right after he had his son slain before him. But nevertheless, this man here, with the part vessels of his God, part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar to the house of his God. Now, we're not dealing with Shinar because Nimrod set up and established Babel in Shinar. That was under the Hamites' rule. We're dealing with the Gentiles today, y'all. But they took over what was in Shinar and carried it on into what the Gentiles took over, rather, what was actually originated in Ham, y'all. But they just got a lot more elaborate with it, and Satan got a lot more creative with them guys. We'll see how that goes. But notice it says that he brought into the vessels of the treasures of the house of his God. Let's go to Daniel's 2nd chapter. Daniel's 2nd chapter, and read verse 1. Daniel's 2 and 1. Read.
And in the 2nd year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake from him. Then the king commanded to call the magicians, astrologers, and the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans, for to show the king his dreams. So they came and stood before the king.
Now notice what Nebuchadnezzar was relying on here. He was relying on his what? His astrologers. That's why you got astrologers around to this day. Okay. You have magicians. Okay. The sorcerers and the Chaldeans, y'all, for to show the king his dreams. So they came and stood before the king. Now, I want to point out what the Chaldeans are, because see, the Chaldeans were originally under the Babylon, under Ham, and then they became a class of people. And I'm going to read this document. The Chaldeans were people who lived in southern Babylonia, which would be the southern part of Iraq today. And sometimes the term Chaldeans is used to refer to the Babylonians in general. Okay, so the word Chaldean is synonymous with the word Babylon, but normally refers to a specific semi-nomadic tribe that lived in the southern part of Babylon, and the land of the Chaldeans was a southern part of Babylon or Mesopotamia. We're going to get into a lot of things that came out of Mesopotamia that's intertwined in the religion, especially Christianity. Like I said, Christianity has just been redressed, but it's a redressing of a whole lot of what the Gentiles believed in under Babylon, Medo-Persian, Greek, and the Romans. But let me go here. The Chaldeans I mentioned in the Bible multiple times, y'all. In both in two types of contexts. For example, Genesis 11:28 speaks of Abraham's father, Terah, who dwelt in Ur of the Chaldees. Okay. Then you have, we know that from verses Genesis 11 and 31 and Genesis 15, that God called Abraham out of the Ur of the Chaldeans. Okay? Now, the Chaldeans were an intelligent and sometimes aggressive, warlike people, y'all. And in 731 BC, Uzkenza, a Chaldean, became king of Babylon. However, his reign was short-lived, so that's why he's not mentioned. A few years later, Modrak Baladan, also a Chaldean, became king of Babylon. Then in 626 BC, Nebuchadnezzar, another Chaldean, became king and began an extended part of the time during which Babylon was ruled by a Chaldean king, and Nebuchadnezzar was a Chaldean, and he was king of Babylon. Now, during this time, the word Chaldean became synonymous for Babylon, and we see many verses in the scriptures where the word Chaldean was referred to Babylonians in general. We're going to look at some of these verses today. And the successors to Nebuchadnezzar was Nebuchadnezzar, Amel-Marduk, Nebuchadnezzar, and then Belshazzar, king of the Chaldeans. We're going to look at that verse today. Now, at the height of the Babylonian Empire, the Chaldeans were influential and highly educated group of people. See, that's why this thing about going to theological school and all that, this originated with the Chaldeans, y'all. Therefore, you had to go to their school to learn about their gods. So they were highly educated, an intelligent group of people, y'all. Some historians believe that after Persia conquered Babylon, the term Chaldean was used more to refer to a social class of highly educated people rather than a race of men. The Chaldeans influenced Nebuchadnezzar's decision to throw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the fiery furnace. That's Daniel's 3rd chapter, and were well known as wise men and astrologers during the time of the Hebrew captivity in Babylon. Okay, y'all, so I'm going to go and look right here. So now, next slide. And this is a time period we'll discuss Nebuchadnezzar and Nebuchadnezzar from 605 to 652 BC, and then Belshazzar 539 BC. Now, Daniel was the prophet during this time. We were going to read some from Jeremiah and a little bit of Ezekiel. Ezekiel was addressing a different aspect. But pretty much we're going to deal with this part when we talk about Babylon in particular, or what we're talking about rather now is Babylon all the way up to where Belshazzar was king. Okay, so now let's do ourselves a favor and let's go to Daniel's 7th chapter. No, sorry, my bad. I'm looking at my notes. Got ahead of myself. So let's continue on in this Daniel's 2nd chapter. And Nebuchadnezzar had this dream. So we're going to pick it up at verse 3. Daniel's 2nd chapter, verse 3. Read.
And the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream. Verse 4, Then spake the Chaldeans to the king in Syriac, O king, live forever. Tell thy servant the dream, and we will show the interpretation. Excuse me. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, the thing is gone from me. If ye will not make known unto me the dream, with the interpretation thereof, ye shall be cut in pieces, and your houses shall be made a dunghill. So now, understanding the background that the Chaldeans were relied upon, because they were highly educated people, so they were deemed the upper class, the intelligent. It's kind of like your university guys, your professors of religion. Okay, so he looked to them to interpret this dream, but he said, if you can't interpret this, you shall be cut in pieces, and your houses shall be made a dunghill. Go ahead. Verse 6, But if ye show the dream and the interpretation thereof, ye shall receive of me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore show me the dream and the interpretation thereof. So
notice how Nebuchadnezzar is rewarding or what kind of more gifts, for interpreting dreams, and Gentiles love that stuff. You can show stuff, but they will treat you like you God. That's why when you go and read the account of Cornelius coming in down to Peter, he fell down to bow down to him. Peter said, no, I'm a man myself like you, dude. Get up. Because the Gentiles had not known who to really bow down to, so they was bow down to, but anyway, keep going.
Verse 7, they answered again and said, let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation of it. Mm-hmm. Verse 8, the king answered and said, I know certainly that ye would gain the time, because ye see the thing is gone from me. Verse 9, but if ye will not make known unto me the dream, there is but one decree for you, for ye have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak before me, till the time be changed. Therefore tell me the dream, and I shall know that ye can show me the interpretation thereof.
Go ahead.
Verse 10, the Chaldeans answered before the king and said, there is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter.
Now see, look how they felt. They were so arrogant in their highly exalted knowledge that they said there ain't a man on earth that can show the king the matter. And this is the thing about the Gentiles. They get so wild that they don't conceive, man. Don't nothing else matter. Ain't nothing else going on but them. And that's why when the Lord dropped the rock on the Gentiles, it's going to be a horror show, y'all. Anyway, so he said, they said, there's not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Go ahead.
Therefore there is no king, lord, nor ruler that asks such things at any musician or astrologer or Chaldean. Verse 11, and it is a rare thing that the king required, and there is none other that can show it before the king except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh.
In other words, they say except the gods. That's why you got the Trinity thing. They think it's more than one God. It's these multiple gods. So you can see all the little trinkets of Babylon in what they call Christianity, or in the world religions nowadays, y'all. So because we are living in the times of the Gentiles. So he said that therefore there's no king, lord, nor ruler that can ask such any magician or astrologer or Chaldeans, and it's a rare thing that the king required, and there's none other that can show it before the king except the gods, that's liturgy, y'all, whose dwelling is not with flesh. Go ahead.
Verse 12, for this cause the king was angry and
boy, he got pissed. Boy, I can imagine he got furious. Wait a minute, y'all standing up here, y'all supposed to be the wisest thing on the planet. Because y'all talking about can't nobody else show me this thing. Say, y'all telling me Yahweh, and you can't do this? So, cause the king was angry. This cause the king was angry, for this cause rather, the king was angry and very furious. Go ahead.
And commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon.
And he commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. Now let's pay attention to what he called all the wise men. The magicians, the sorcerers, and the astrologers. And we understand the Chaldeans was a class of people, y'all. Even the Gentiles themselves. So go ahead.
Verse 13. And the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain, and they saw Daniel and his fellows to be slain.
So now I want to read something about other details about the Babylon religion, y'all. We have this on our website when I bring this page up. The Babylonians worship. Now all the wise men, see, the Gentiles set up their gods. And one of the gods that was in the midst of Babylon was called Marduk. Now, Marduk was a patron god of Babylon and the Babylonians, and he was called the king of the deities, who presided over justice, compassion, healing, regeneration, magic, and fairness, although he also sometimes was referenced as a storm god and agricultural deity. It's mentioned in the Bible. Let's do ourselves a favor and let's go to Jeremiah 50 and 2. Hold this spot in Daniel, so we'll be back. Let's go to Jeremiah 50th chapter and verse 2. I do start at verse 1 and read to verse 2. Jeremiah 50 and 1. Jeremiah 50:1. Read.
The word that the Lord spake against Babylon and against the land of the Chaldeans by Jeremiah the prophet. Declare ye among the nations, and publish, and set up a standard. Publish and conceal not. Say, Babylon is taken, Bel is confounded. Merodach is broken in pieces. Her idols are confounded. Her images are broken in pieces.
Now, guess what, y'all? This ain't talking about a war that happened back then. Because we're going to find out that Babylon just passed on to Medo-Persian without a shot being fired. Without a shot being fired. So now I'm going to go back to my slide right quick. Next. Now, I want to bring this up because this is the time of the prophecy. You had what's called the Babylonian age, where you had Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Jeremiah, Daniel, and Ezekiel, and Nahum. Now, these prophets prophesied to Judah, whereas Nahum prophesied to foreign nations. And followed immediately after the Babylonian age, you had the Persian here, but it's actually Medo-Persian. The Mede portion was real short-lived. We're going to see that right quick. Next. Now, I want to bring this up because it's important to understand these four beasts as they relate to Babylon, Medo-Persian, Greek, and the last beast. This is a terrible beast, this right here. That's why it looks like a dinosaur. But within this yellow block here is what we're going to focus on. So now, let's go back in the book. Back in the book. I'm going to hold that up there for now. But one of the guys that they worshiped was called Marduk, and he was the patron deity of the city of Babylon. And Marduk was worshipped as a city deity of Babylon, much as the same as Yahweh was for the Judeans, Athens for the Athenians, and Diana for the Ephesians. That's in the book of Acts. But let's do ourselves a favor. Let's go to Daniel's 7th chapter, because I'm going to bring these four beasts into play, because they go hand in hand in the rule of the Gentile. Daniel 7 and verse 1. Daniel 7th chapter and verse 1. You get it? Read.
In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters.
Now Daniel's had this dream. The last one was Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Now we're looking at Daniel's dream. The Lord informing Daniel what's going on. Go ahead.
Verse 2, Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea. And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse, one from another.
So this is what we're seeing up on this behind me. These four great beasts. Go ahead, read.
Verse 4, the first one was like a lion, and it had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man. And a man's heart was given to it.
So that's the first beast. That's the Babylon. Go ahead.
Verse 5. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh.
Now, okay, that's where we want to stop at, because we just doing these two parts, y'all. I'm breaking this thing down. We're going to take our time with this. Now, next slide. Now, Nebuchadnezzar was a ruler of Babylon. He was the ruler of Babylon, the Chaldean dynasty. He reigned from 605 BC to 562. And according to the Bible, he conquered Judah and Jerusalem and sent us, I do mean us, into exile. And he's credited with the construction of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. He's featured in the book of Daniel and also mentioned in several other books of the Bible. Now, the religion of Babylon, the state religion of Babylonia, involved large cults with big temples and numerous personnel, while the religion of the private individual was involved with magic and sorcery. So we understand why he had sorcerers there, and magicians, and you had your Chaldeans there. Now, just as it is nowadays, you had a state religion revolved around the great gods of the cities, who were ranked in order corresponding to more or less the political status of their cities. Marduk, we read about that. Marduk, the god of Babylon, was king of the gods, and his son Nabu was Berserper and was right next to him. Now, what I want to do is go and show you how the attitude of these Gentiles is the Gentile Nebuchadnezzar is very, man, look, let's go back to Daniel's. The second chapter. Because we just come off that first beast, those first two beasts. I want to go back to Daniel's the second chapter. And then we're going to identify that Nebuchadnezzar is this head of gold, and you have the arm, the chest rather, was of silver. So we're going to go back to Daniel's, the second chapter, and this time I want to go to verse 31. And then what I want to do is go and show you what Nebuchadnezzar did when he wanted people to worship what he had set up as a god. They had a whole lot of gods, y'all. A whole lot of them. So back to Daniel, see, second chapter. This time I want to go to Daniel's 2 and 31. Because the dream that Nebuchadnezzar had, he wanted to interpret it, but his wise men, he's ordering all the wise men of Babylon to be destroyed. But we're going to get down to the crux of Daniel's deciphering this dream for him and explaining what was really going on, y'all. So Daniel's 2 and verse 31. That's why people are going to be looking in the last days to these allegedly wise folks about what's going on, and they're going to be getting sought and destroyed. That's why we got to go by book. So let's see what this book say. Daniel's 2 and 31. Because Daniel's finna interpret this dream. Daniel's 2 and 31. Read.
Thou, O king, sawest and behold a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. Mm-hmm. This image's head was of fine gold, mm-hmm. His breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass.
See, so we see his head was gold, his what was silver, his breast and arms was silver, and belly and his thighs of brass. Go ahead.
Verse 33. His legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Mm-hmm. Verse 34, thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, mm-hmm. which smote the image upon his feet.
Why did the Lord throw a rock at the man's feet? Because the Lord going to drop a rock, because that's what's going to be left by the time we get to the end, y'all. That's all that's going to be left is the feet of the statue. But he said, thou sawest that the stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
That were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, mm-hmm. and became like the shaft of the summer threshing floors. Uh-huh. And the wind carried them away, uh-huh. that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth.
And bounced back to heaven. It didn't say that, did it, y'all? It didn't say it went back up to heaven, did it? Mm-hmm. It said it filled the whole earth. We can read what Jesus is, this stone, y'all. Nevertheless, he's going to interpret this dream for this man. Go ahead.
Verse 36, this is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Verse 37, Thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, mm-hmm. power, strength, and glory. Mm-hmm. And whosoever And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of heaven hath he given into thy hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold.
So now we see Nebuchadnezzar is this head of gold, and notice the authority that's given to him. That's why we still in the time of the Gentiles, y'all. Because he says, whithersoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field, go out there and try to hunt them without a license. Try fishing without a license. Even to this day, this decree is still in play, y'all. Okay? Whatsoever the beasts of the field, the fowls of the heaven, he had given into thy hand, and have made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. Okay? So now, what I want to do is show you how Babylon is still present here. Show you, let's go and look at 1 Peter 5 and 8. 1 Peter 5 and 8. Even under the Roman Empire, look at this acknowledgement that the Apostle Peter made. 1 Peter 5 and 8. 1 Peter 5 and 8. Because we're going to read where Babylon passed away, y'all, and went unto the MEDO-PERSIAns. But we way down, y'all. We way down past Jesus' death and resurrection. Everybody know the Roman Empire was ruling in the days of Peter. Jerusalem was sacked by Rome, the Roman Empire. But watch this. 1 Peter 5 and verse 8. Read.
Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking who he may devour. Whom resist steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world.
Now watch this, y'all. Skip down to verse 13. See who he's talking to.
Verse 13. The church that is at Babylon.
Whoa! He said the church that's at Babylon, but everybody know he was under the Roman Empire. Because we're going to find out, y'all, that the significance of Babylon go far beyond when they initiated, y'all. Because we just read, whatsoever the sons of men are, he is king over them all. And Babylon is physically not here, but spiritually, its doctrines, its behavior, its religion, its faith is still present. Very present, y'all. Finish that.
Elected together with you, saluted you, and so doeth Marcus my son.
See, now Paul didn't have physical son. He just acknowledged some brothers that was born again, whom he had adopted to the gospel of God. Okay? That's why he said, so doeth Marcus my son. He ain't talking about physical son, y'all. Anyway, so let's do ourselves a favor and go to Revelations to further pursue this and see this. Revelation 17th chapter. No, this is under the Roman Empire, but watch what name comes up again, y'all. Watch what name comes up again. You'll want to bring us some interesting nuggets that I discovered in looking at the Babylonian religion and how it affected us, y'all. But we're going to Revelation 17th chapter and verse 1. Read.
And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Verse 2, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Now the reference to that is Revelation 13th chapter, y'all, when the beast comes all together, kind of sum it up, that coexist where they all come under one umbrella. Well, that's what it says, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Go ahead. Verse 4, and the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color.
Now look, this woman in this case is another church, y'all. This woman is married to Babylon. Okay, this woman is married to this church, this religion is married to Babylon. Go ahead.
And decked with gold and precious stones.
Yes, sir.
And pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations. And filthiness of her fornication. Verse 5, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great.
Wait a minute, Babylon the Great. Whenever a man marries a woman, she takes on whose name? His name. This church that this woman is talking about, or this woman which represents the church, she's married to Babylon. But this is all the way down in the Roman Empire. And this is even, we'll see, because it says mystery, Babylon the Great. Go ahead. The mother of what?
The mother of harlots.
And she got daughters. We're going to get into them daughters when we get down to the foot, y'all. But it said mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots. Go ahead.
And abominations of the earth.
Yes.
And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. Verse 7, and the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her, which have the 7 heads and 10 horns.
Now notice it says the blood of the martyrs of who? Jesus. But this was under the Roman Empire. But Babylon was still right there, like Peter said, to the church that's in Babylon. And the church in Babylon suffers so much to the point of martyrdom, y'all. And notice it says, for the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. Not for the blood of Baptist, Episcopalian, none of that. Because those are the daughters of the harlot, y'all. That's why she's the mother of harlots. So now, let's do ourselves a favor. Let's go back to Daniel's the 2nd chapter. And what we're going to look at with Nebuchadnezzar, Daniel's I said 2nd chapter, right? We're going to get into this head of gold, and we're going to go, actually, let's go Daniel's 3rd chapter. Daniel's the 3rd chapter. And we're going to see he set up an image to be worshipped. Daniel's the 3rd chapter and verse 1. Read.
Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold.
See, because he saw that Daniel told him, look, that image of gold, that's you. So he made an image of gold. Go ahead.
Whose height was 3 score excuse me. Whose height was 3 score cubits.
That's 60.
And the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon. Verse 2, then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent together the princes, and the governors, and the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up.
Yes, sir.
Verse 3, then the princes, the governors, the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces were gathered together unto the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up.
See, and the Gentiles always want you to come and worship what they set up. That's one thing. They look at you, when you don't partake in that thing, they call you an atheist. And this is the mindset that proliferates in the midst of the people. If you're not a partaker of that religion, or their religion, then they called you an atheist. I mean, I called my granddad an atheist for a long time. I said, man, you don't come to church on Sunday. Granddad, you an atheist. You don't believe in God. I wish I could wake him up now. Hey, man, look, granddad, dude, you had half the battle won, man. Oh, anyway. But look, y'all, here's the thing. Go ahead, because they set up this image to be worshipped. Nebuchadnezzar had created it. And he set up this image to be worshipped. Go ahead. Verse 4.
Verse 4, then a herald cried aloud to you, it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sagbus, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king has set up.
Now it's really interesting that you should see the number 666 in this chapter, y'all. Because it started out with 666, and it's going to end with 666 coming, y'all. But notice he had 6 instruments, and up high we saw, what, three score cubits, and then it had the breadth was, the height was 3 score cubits, and the breadth of 6 cubits, and now we down here, and there's 6 instruments. The number 6 appears in this 3 times. 3 times, y'all. But look what they say if you don't, and this herald cried it out. Verse 6.
Verse 6, and whoso falleth not down and worshipeth shall the same hour be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace.
Now the one that stood up against this was Meshach, Abednego, and Shadrach. So we're not going to get to that story, but I'm just showing you how they set up their religion and they expect you to bow down to this stuff. Because they don't know God. They haven't been taught by God. So the guys that they set up, they expect you to bow down to that. But let's go to Daniel's the 5th chapter. Because I want to get ready to pass on to we get to how we get from that religious format into Medo-Persian. Because I want to read this here that I pulled up. The Babylonian calendar and the Bible. Yes. Because I used to wonder, how did that, when we deal with our feasts, in the law you have Abib, but later on you had these other names come up. And right here, how this affected Israel, I want to read this, because we went into captivity to Babylon. It said, when ancient Israel fell under the dominion of the great empires, their calendar was radically altered. And it says, this is because of the ancient societies, times, and calendars were mainly controlled by political rulers. So we find that in most of the Hebrew in the Bible, the months of the years are only numbered. When you go in the law, Leviticus 23rd chapter, when you go into the first 5 books, the only name you find is Abib. We're on our way to Abib, but I found it very interesting, Lord, to bring this to my attention. So I just feel, I'm coming to share with you guys too. He said, the months and years were only numbered and hardly ever named. But after the Babylonian exile, in the books of Zechariah, Esther, Ezra, Nehemiah, Babylonian month names suddenly appear and become quite frequent. The Babylonian months of Nisan, that's why I knew Abib. When I saw Nisan, I was like, why we start saying Nisan? Because we went into captivity under the times of the Gentiles. And they renamed Abib, Nisan, Sivan, Elul, Tesli, Teshi, Shavit, and Adar are all used either in their own or alongside number months. Nisan in the spring is consistently equated in these books with the first month mentioned in Exodus. Nisan indeed was the first month of the Babylonian calendar. So when you start using Nisan, you're talking Teshif and all that. These are you observing the Babylonian pollution of the Lord's calendar. Okay, that's why we just observe Abib and count out 30 days, y'all, flat out. Anyway, so the use of the Babylonian month names, which later became standard on what they call the Jewish calendar, which is actually the Babylonian calendar, y'all. It is hardly surprising in the context of post-Hellenistic period that the Babylonian calendar originated in Babylonia, southern Iraq, and in the early 2nd millennium BC spread to the rest of Mesopotamia in the late 2nd millennium BC, and then became the official calendar of the great empires of Assyria, also Babylonia and Persia, in use across the whole Near East. The Jews under the Persian rule adopted it as their own calendar, as did many other peoples in the Persian Empire. The Jews adopted not only Babylonian month names, but also the entire Babylonian calendar, y'all. So let's go ahead and read this as we transition to that Persian thing, because we're going to show you how Babylon passed on, not with a war. This one quietly in the night passed on to Medo-Persian. So That part right I just read is about how they affected us, how their religion, how Babylonian religion affected us. Okay, our people. So Daniel 5:1, read.
Belshazzar the king made a great feast to 1,000 of his lords, and drank wine before the 1,000. Belshazzar, while he tasted the wine, commanded to bring the golden and silver vessels which his father Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple which was in Jerusalem, that the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines might drink therein. Verse 3. Then they brought the golden vessel that were taken out of the temple of the house of God, which was at Jerusalem, and the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines drank in them. Verse 4. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and of silver, of brass, of iron, of wood, and of stone.
Now I want to take a pause right here because we see how they love to praise all these material things, but I'm going to show you something else about their religion. Next slide. Baal, meaning Lord Marduk, was the chief of the Babylonian gods. We talked about that. Let me see if we had to move on. Keep going. Next slide. Now this is the image of Marduk, and notice it includes tree worship. Tree worship, y'all. If you notice how this image here of Marduk, this is the god that they worship in the Babylonians. Now you got the same guy right here, but he's standing next to a tree. And this tree worship was in Babylon, y'all. Jeremiah 10th chapter, where he said, "Hear ye the word of the Lord, which the Lord speaketh to you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them, for the custom of the people are vain, for one cutteth a tree out of the forest, and the work of the hands of the workman with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold, and they fashion it with nails and with hammers, that it move not." This is Babylonian, y'all. That's what they did in Babylon. Wow. Is any of that stuff around nowadays, y'all? I believe. Anyway. Okay, I'm gonna move to the next slide. So yeah, they had this, you had the evergreen tree with the soulless practices. They did sun worship. They worshiped the moon, the stars, all of that, y'all. All of that. Next. So now we're gonna ease into the MEDO-PERSIAN part by continuing to read, y'all. We're gonna keep going. So back to Daniel 5, and this time at verse 5. Because what's going to happen here is the passing of the kingdom. So we're going to read Daniel 5 and 5. Read.
Verse 5. And the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand, and wrote over against the candlestick upon the salters of the wall of the king's palace. And the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. Then the king's countenance was changed.
Now remember, he was in there drinking to all his gods. The gods of gold and silver and brass and iron and wood and stone. Quite sure he had his trees in there too, probably. Anyway, then the king's countenance was changed when they saw that hand. He said, and his thoughts troubled him. Go ahead.
And his thoughts troubled him, so that the joints of his loins were loosed, and his knees smote one against another.
Now imagine you sitting up there, you kicking it, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you see a hand come up on a wall. You like, yeah, that'll stop a party real quick. Anyway, so he was shaking, knees smoting together. Then the king did what?
Verse 7, the king cried aloud to bring in the astrologers.
See, now he called to his religions, his the ones he rely on for spookery and all this. His astrologers, the who else? The Chaldeans?
The Chaldeans,
yes.
And the soothsayers.
Yes.
And the king spake and said to the wise men of Babylon.
Oh, these are the wise men of Babylon. Go ahead.
Whosoever shall read this writing and show me the interpretation thereof shall be clothed with scarlet and have a chain of gold about his neck.
Wow.
And shall be the third ruler in the kingdom.
Wow. So Babylon, they like to put chains of gold around your neck. Wonder who like doing that. Anyway, chains of gold. Oh, we done taught the wicked ones their ways, y'all. But this thing, go ahead. He shall be third ruler in the kingdom. Go ahead.
Verse 8. Then came in all the king's wise men, but they could not read the writing.
So they could not read this writing that came before the king. Okay, all these wise men in Babylon, but they could not read the writing. Go ahead. Nor what?
Nor make known to the king the interpretation thereof. Then was King Belshazzar greatly troubled, and his countenance was changed in him, and his lords were astonished.
There was astonished. Now let's get down all the way down to verse 17. But Daniel, Israel, we had the answer. Yes, we did. Daniel, Hebrew, he had the answer. Watch what Daniel said.
Verse 17. Then Daniel answered and said before the king, let thy gifts be to thyself, and give thy rewards to another.
See, we ain't all about, when you truly are serving God, dude, we're gonna let you know what's going on, bro. You can have all that stuff to yourself. He said, let your gifts be to yourself, and give thy rewards to another. Yet I will read the writing. Go ahead.
Yeah, I will read the writing unto the king, and make known to him the interpretation.
Yes, sir.
Verse 18. O thou king, the most high God gave Nebuchadnezzar thy father a kingdom, and majesty, and glory, and honor. And for the majesty that he gave him, all people, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whom he slew, and whom he kept alive, and whom he set up, and whom he put down.
Yes, sir. Now let's get to interpretation of this thing. Skip all the way down to verse 25. Actually, verse 24. Read.
Then was the part of the hand sent from him, and this writing was written. And this is the writing that was written, meaning, tekel, upharshon. Verse 26. This is the interpretation of the thing, meaning, God hath numbered thy kingdom and finished it.
Wait a minute. Why did you stand in that king? He said, God has numbered your kingdom and finished it? But it wasn't shot fired, y'all. God numbered that kingdom and finished it. Go ahead.
Verse 27. Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances and art found wanting.
See, and God weighed him in the balance and found him what? Wanting? Go ahead.
Perish. Thy kingdom is divided and given to the
Medes.
The Medes and Persians.
Oh, perish, that thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. The Persians really put it on the map. The Medes was like a hello and a goodbye. Nevertheless, as far as the annals of history. But God, in his word, said it's been given to the Medes and the Persians. Go ahead.
Then commanded Belshazzar, and they closed Daniel with scarlet, with a chain of gold about his neck.
You know how Israel feel about gold around their neck. Bling, bling. Anyway, y'all know what's up. Go ahead.
And made a proclamation concerning him, that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom.
So he did it anyway, despite Daniel's saying give it to somebody else. But watch this. And that night, go ahead.
Verse 30, and that night was Belshazzar the king of the Chaldeans.
Oh, no, he said he was a king of the Chaldeans, so we see how the word Babylon and Chaldean is synonymous. So we see that night Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, was what? Slain. He died in his sleep. Go ahead.
And Darius the Median took the kingdom.
Oh, so Darius the Mede took the kingdom. Go ahead.
Being about 62 years old.
So now we're transitioning over from the Medo-Persian Empire into the Medo-Persian Empire, and we're going to look at Cyrus in a minute, because there were several kings that was the most famous one that rose up. But go right into chapter 6. Chapter 6, verse 1. And that was, what was the time on it? That was right about 536 AD. Yep, 536, BC, my bad. 536 BC. So Daniel chapter 6, verse 1. Read.
It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 princes, which should be over the whole kingdom. And over these 3 presidents, of whom Daniel was first, that the princes might give accounts unto them. The king should have no damage. Verse 3, then this Daniel was preferred above the presidents and princes, because an excellent spirit was in him.
No, he said an excellent spirit was in him. Go ahead.
And the king thought to set him over the whole realm. Verse 4, then the presidents and princes sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom.
See, now, Gentiles, in their carnality, look what they said. Then the presidents, and we talking about people that's upper echelon. Then the presidents and the princes sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom. Because they know we don't be bowing down to these guys' images that they set up. Go ahead. But they could not, what?
But they could not find none occasion nor fault, nor as much as he was faithful, neither was there any error or fault found in him.
And notice, but they could find none occasion nor fault, nor for as much as he was faithful, neither was there any error or fault found in him. Go ahead.
Verse 5, then said these men, we should not find any occasion against Daniel, except we find it against him concerning the law of his God.
See, that's what they said. Look, we shall not find any occasion against Daniel, except we find it against him concerning the law of his God. Notice they didn't say our God, because they had their own little God. That's how it is nowadays, y'all. Everybody got their own little clique. Don't you ain't against, we can find fault against you against your God. They ain't talking about our God, because we good with our God. Oh, that's how the Gentiles always have been. So except we find a fault against him concerning the law of his God, go ahead.
Verse 6, then these presidents and princes assembled together to the king and said thus unto him, King Darius, live forever.
So now let's skip all the way down, y'all. Let's skip all the way down to verse 25. Oh, well, you know what? I want to make sure we establish that we are in the Medes and the Persians, so I don't want to go too far down. So now let's get down on, let's go as far as verse let's go ahead, because I want to bring in some other stuff. So skip all the way down to verse 25. Read.
Then King Darius wrote unto all people, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom men tremble in fear before the God of Daniel.
See, they were saying, you tremble before the God of Daniel. He said, not before my God, because they, believe you me, the Gentiles, they knew about our God, but they had their own gods, y'all. So I'm going to hold that spot, and let's go to the next slide. Go to the next slide. Because the MEDO-Persian Empire continued in the tradition of sun worship. And as Medo-Persia indicates, it's a kingdom derived from a combination of the Medes and the Persians. One most important thing I want to bring out here is that the earliest form of the religion of Medo-Persian is described in ancient manuscripts known as the Zendavesta. Hero Mazda also was known as the creator of all things, heaven and earth, light and darkness, the originator of all laws and judge of the world. In the earliest periods of Ahura Mazda, the worship of many gods is apparent, including Indra of storm, Amati, earth, Agni, fire, Soma of intoxication, value of wind, and the most important to our study is Mithra. Mithra was a god of the Persians, y'all. Let me go down here. An understanding of the religious thought in the Medo-Persian Empire is of great importance. It was from a climate of religious tolerance that Judah returned to Jerusalem, bringing within the traditions that had absolutely nothing to do with the worship of God. These are the traditions condemned by Jesus when he spoke to the chief priests, the Pharisees, because of their refusal to abandon these false beliefs. They stumbled and failed to receive their long-awaited Messiah, Jesus Christ, because God would not allow the slightest pagan tradition to be combined with his worship, and all such attempts are in vain. So now, Kiwi, I want to make sure I got that in there. It was in 28:6. Need you to stay good with us. Go ahead.
Verse 26, I made a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom men tremble and fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God and steadfast forever, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall be even unto the end. He delivereth and rescueth, and he worketh signs and wonders in heaven and in the earth. Who have delivered Daniel from the power of the lion. Verse 28. So this Daniel prospered in the reign of Darius and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian.
So now he prospered in the reign of Darius and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian. So let's go to 2 Chronicles. Ezra, actually I'm going to go to Ezra 1. And it talks like we're picking right up from where we're leaving off. Ezra 1 and 1. Ezra 1 and 1. Read.
Now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and put it also in writing, saying, Thus saith Cyrus, king of Persia.
So now we see Cyrus is king of Persia. So we went from the Medes to the Persians. Go ahead.
The Lord God of heaven hath given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he hath charged me to build him an house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah, who is there among you, all his people. Of all his people. His God be with him.
Whoa, wait a minute. He didn't say my God be with him, did he? See, let's pay attention to what we're looking at, y'all, and you will clearly see the pattern, especially nowadays. But nonetheless, he said, his God be with him. Because they had their own God, y'all. Because he said, his God be with him, and let him go up what? Go ahead.
And let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and build the house of the Lord, God of Israel. He is the God which is in Jerusalem.
He is the God which is in Jerusalem. They say which is with us. Because they had their own little God. Want to know why? Because see, in MEDO-Persian, as we mentioned, Mithraism is the one I want to bring up to the forefront. But before we go there, let me go here. Because the significance of the Medo-Persian religion and history is that Medo-Persian, they took over Babylon in 539 BC. They took its capital. And in biblical chronology, this occurred at the end of the Babylonian exile. And within a short amount of time, Daniel became a trusted advisor within the Medo-Persian Empire. Because they was very tolerant. You can have your God, and we can have our God. Oh, you got a God, you good. That's pretty much where they was at, y'all. That's pretty much where they were at. And today, Persian is essentially synonymous with modern Iran. And this was not so different. So in ancient times, however, Persia is an ancient kingdom, especially when we're referencing along with Media, encompass Egypt in the west and parts of India in the east, include Asia Minor from eastern border of Greece to Pakistan. Now, the book of Isaiah and Jeremiah foretold of the Medo-Persian Empire. And what I want to do is now go into the religion of the Medo-Persian Empire. The one that rose to the top of the cream of the crop, y'all, was Mithraism. Now, according to Persian tradition, the god Mithras was actually incarnated to the human form of the Savior expected by Zoroaster. And Mithras was born of what's called Anatha, and an immaculate virgin mother, once worshipped as a fertility goddess. And before goddess before the hierarchical reformation. And it was said to have conceived a savior from the seed of Zoroaster, preserved in waters of Lake Hama in the Persian province of Sistan. Now, Mithras' ascension to heaven was said to have occurred in 208 BC, 64 years after his birth. This birth took place in the cave, and where shepherds attended him, and regaled him, addressed him with gifts at the winter solstice. What do this sound like, y'all? Anyway, this is based on older myths and births of Mithra, that his magical birth at the dawn of time was from a rock, and from which he formed himself using his will. He holds in his hand a dagger and a torch. A statue from a house there shows Mithras being born from the rock, while 12 signs of the zodiac surround him. So now I want to go to our next slide. This is what Mithras looked like. He had sun crown on his head. Okay, what that look like, y'all? That's the Statue of Liberty. But wait a minute. Why we seeing the Statue of Liberty way back there? The more things change, the more they remain in what? The same. So we see the sun crown, MEDO-PERSIAN sun crowns. This is King Antiochus and Mithras' crown. This was a Colossus temple built by Antiochus in 69 to 31 BC. And that's what this is the image of. This is the image of with his sun crown, and then we know where that's at right now, y'all. Okay? Everybody know this is the image of in New York City that stands off the Atlantic Ocean. Okay? But look how far back Mithras is. So this is the sun crown of Mithra. Now let me get into a little history of Mithra, a little more history. It says, at his birth, he challenged other forces when the world was young. He battled with the sun, resulted in the formation of friendship, and Mithras was bestowed with an array of crowns of the sun. Okay? He was born on December 25th. We were talking about way, this is on the Medo-Persian Empire, y'all. So I'm going to go and switch. I think I'm going to go to the next slide. Next slide. Oh, no, go back. Because we almost there, y'all. We almost there. Now, I'm going to go into a little historical fact about the origin of this under the Medo-Persian religion. And it said the oldest source of Persian is to be found in Mithraism, an ancient Persian spiritual path, which began in eastern Iran many thousands of years ago, according to Dr. Mazar Hamayori, origin of Persian Gnosticism. Mithra is an Indo-Iranian god worshipped at least as early as 1400 BC. In Hinduism, he is praised as a binomial Mitra Varuna. A hymn is also dedicated to him. He is the Lord of heavenly light, protector of truth, and invoked when a contract is or oath is taken. In Persia, Mithra was the protector of gods of the tribal society until Zoroaster reformation of the Persian polytheism, which occurred between 628 and 558 BC. Mithra was like the rest of the gods and goddesses of the Iranian pantheon, and he was stripped of his sovereignty and of all his powers and attributes were bestowed upon Ahura Mazda. However, due to his popularity, we see in the Avesta Ahura Mazda saying to Zoroaster, "Verily, when I created Mithra, the Lord of wide pastures, I created him as a worth of sacrifice or worthy of prayer as myself." So now Mithra became known as love and the sun, and is a protector of the Iranian nation. We went and showed you Iranians are Gentiles, giving victory to those who lie not unto Mithra. He is the warrior deity carrying hundreds of knotted maces, from whom all demons flee in fear. And in prayer to the sun Mithra, S-U-N, okay, not S-O-N, it's mentioned again and referred to as a friend. I will sacrifice to that friendship the best of all my friendships that reigns between the moon and the sun. So now, in conclusion, concerning the Mithra, this is the religion of the Medo-Persians, y'all. Mithra was an essential part of the male mysteries, one who was invoked alongside other masculine deities, and best illustrated by the following chant, which I wrote as part of a Bataan invocation: Pan, Mithras, Herni, as in hermeneutics, Cernunnos, and Ra. These encompass all current male mysteries, depending on the particular workings, can be replaced by Chronos with little change to the sound, in that the particular ceremonies that those who wanted to raise those gods' energy used in the above chants, while those who wanted to raise the goddess energy used what was called Isis, Astarte, Diana, Hecate, Demetra, Kali, Inaya, the Inaya chants. Now, two energies raised within the circle were united by wine and cake. Therefore, the invincible sun god, Mithras, could be incorporated into fire festivals, and it's not limited to just solar festivals. Mithras is invoked and worshipped by men and women across the world, as depicted in many Mithrans, and cloak of Mithras is the cloak of Mithras is a star-filled sky, and in the words of Mithric liturgy, he says, "I am the star wandering about thee, and is shining forth out of the deep." So, in closing, let's go to 1 Corinthians 10 and 20. We're almost there, y'all. I'm going to cut this because I don't want to get into the Greek just yet. But now we clearly understand why the scripture is written, y'all. 1 Corinthians 10 and 20. And we're going to show you in this series, as we wind down, we get into the Greek and the Romans, how Mithraism was intertwined with the Greek gods, and then how their philosophy carried over and come all the way down to Rome. And believe you me, some of the stuff y'all hearing already, you already see it. It's just been redressed and renamed. But 1 Corinthians 10 and verse 20. Oh, before we go there, I want to show you how Babylon really gonna pass away. Let me go there, because we read where Belshazzar, he was slain in his sleep. Good night. He was just slain overnight, and then Darius the Mede took over. But look how Babylon really gonna fall. Let's go to Isaiah 13 and 1. Isaiah 13 and 1. Isaiah 13 and verse 1. Almost left this out. Because the MEDO-PERSIANS just took it right over. But this is how Babylon really gonna go down. And we ain't got to this part yet. What we read it is in front of us, y'all, not behind us. Isaiah 13 and 1. Read.
The burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see. Lift ye up a banner upon the high mountain. Exalt the voice unto them. Shake the hand that they may go into the gates of the noble. I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones for my anger, even them that rejoice in my hiding. Verse 4. The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts musters the hosts of the battle. So it's the Lord calling this battle together, y'all, but we're going to see who it's against. Go ahead. So we're talking about a fight, talking about a war. Go ahead. Verse 5. They come from a far country, from the end of heaven, and even the Lord and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. So he's talking about the burden of who? Babylon. And it said they're going to come from far countries, from the end of heaven, even the Lord, and weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. That ain't what we read what happened to Belshazzar's kingdom. The night that he had received that prophecy that Daniel had read to him, he died. And Darius the Mede just took it over. It didn't say there ensued a great war, blah, blah, blah. No. So we're seeing something that's in front of us, and it said the inclination is to destroy the whole land. Go ahead. Verse 6. How ye, for the day of the Lord is at hand.
Mm-hmm.
It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty.
Yes, sir.
Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt.
Yes, sir.
And they shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrows shall take hold of them.
Hey, we didn't get a little smidget of that now with this coronavirus thing running around, y'all. You got people doing this, what? They shall be afraid, and pains and sorrow shall take hold of them. We just getting a smidget of this, y'all. Shall take hold of them. Go ahead.
They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed. They should be amazed one at another.
Yes.
Their faces should be as flame.
Yes.
Behold, the day of the Lord cometh cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate.
Yes.
He should destroy the sinners thereof.
Ooh.
Out of it. Verse 10. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light.
Oh, wait a minute. So we ain't lived to this day. We have yet to live to this verse concerning Babylon. No wonder Peter said the church that's at Babylon. No wonder we can read about Babylon in Revelations, the 17th chapter, and actually the 18th chapter, where he said, come out of her, my people. Because we ain't got to this point yet, where the stars in heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give her light, and the sun shall be what? The sun shall be what, son? Read that.
The wrath and fierce anger and to lay desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth. And the moon shall not cause her light to shine.
So we ain't seeing this day yet. We have not lived to this verse. Anybody want to talk about, man, we ain't living in the days of the Bible. You take them right here and say, have we got here yet? They'll be like, no, so you still living in the Bible days. Go ahead.
Verse 11, and I will punish the world for their evil.
Ooh, the world ain't been punished for the evil. He said, I will punish the world for their evil. Go ahead.
And the wicked for their iniquity.
Yes.
And I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease.
Yes.
And will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible.
And he going to lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. Why? Let's go to 1 Corinthians, 10th chapter. Because we living in the times of the Gentiles, y'all. We ain't got to the time where he took out the church that's married to Babylon. And she is. That's why I call her Babylon the Great, the mother. Can't be a mother without children. But 1 Corinthians 10 and verse 20. Read.
But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to God. And I would not that ye should have fellowship with devils. Verse 21, ye cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils. Ye cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and of the table of devils.
See, this is why our job as a priest is to save the Gentiles off the table of devils and bring them onto the table of the Lord. But look what Paul said. Go ahead.
Verse 22, do we provoke the Lord to jealousy? Are we stronger than he?
See, look. The Gentiles think they can do what they can do, however they want to do. That's why he was telling them, was telling them, your God, you go, and the decree was to go to build a house for your God. Because they think they stronger than God, but that's why the Lord got to bring the Gentile down. So I hope you got some understanding about this part 2. The Gentile, Babylon and the Medo-Persia and their religion. I want to stop it right here because I don't want to go into the Greek and the Romans because that's a little more. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to hold it right here. I'd rather cut this a little short. And so it gives me room on the other end to expound on how Greco-Roman or Greece rose up. And you have 4 generals that rose up after Alexander the Great that took over his kingdom. So we're going to get into the Greek part and the Roman part in part 3 of this, the Gentiles series. Okay? So I hope you got some understanding in this part 2.